right, hello and welcome to Who's Your Dollar On? The UFC 270. This is episode 2, the UFC 270 live stream. I'd hope to have a couple guests on here, but unfortunately the Rona spiked up again. And like everybody in the world except me is apparently plagued out, so yeah, that didn't happen. Sorry about that. So it's just going to be you and me for this one. We're going to see how it goes. We're going to try to go for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. We'll try to keep it interesting for you. I'll do my best. So a lot of this you probably already heard much better elsewhere, but let's give it a go. Let me refresh the site here. Yay, they finally got it updated. So for most of the day here, and you'll notice my graphic actually matches their graphic. For most of the day, their graphic was the old graphic. Here we have the 270. This is the main card. Headlining it, of course, is a fantastic heavyweight fight. Champion Francis Ngannou, who somehow is the underdog against Francis Cyril Gane, who I guess is technically a slight betting favorite. Now in our co-main event, a fight that is very worthy of main event status on its own, we have the new champion who won it in his last fight, Brandon Moreno, facing the former champion that he defeated by submission, Davison Figueiredo. This fight is going to be fireworks also. Fantastic main event and co-main event. Now from here, this pay-per-view has been shuffled quite a bit. It's seen, even today, 2 fights drop off of it, which is, disappointing. In our third fight on the card, we have Michael Pereira versus Andre Filho. Oh, and they updated their graphic. They actually got a picture for him now. And then we have Cody Stamann against Said Nurmagomedov. Now, starting off the pay-per-view, this one is a replacement today. This was I think the lead fight on the prelims originally, and it was bumped up because, and I think we might have a graphic for this, Rodolfo Vieira versus Wellington Turman was canceled when Rodolfo could not safely. He had a medical issue. The internet speculates he couldn't make weight. We'll never know, likely. That fight was replaced with the Michael Morales versus Trevin Giles fight. Now, interestingly, the main card, we have 2 fighters coming off losses facing 2 fighters who are making their UFC debut. Now, some people would say, how did that make a pay-per-view, never mind the main card? And I think the reason for that is, and we're going to find out tomorrow, that top to bottom, this fight card is probably going to have fireworks. It is going to be fantastic, even if you don't recognize very many of the names on it. Now let's move to the prelims. In the prelims, we have Rony Barcelos versus Victor Henry. I believe Henry is a replacement fighter on this one. But to be honest, there's not a lot out there on this. Now, there was a canceled fight on here. And let me turn off the Ilia Topuria versus Charles Jourdain. That fight was canceled today as well. I don't know, about 4 or 5 hours ago. And interesting, some of the sports books out there actually had a 2-leg parlay plus 800 Gane and Jourdain to win. So that voided out half your leg right there if you bet that one. I have no idea what that would have done to your odds. Now it looks like, and let me look at our early prelims graphic. 2 of the fights off the early prelims have actually been moved up to the prelims, and now we only have 2 fights on the early prelims. So my graphic actually is a little out of date here. That's what I get for doing work ahead of time, apparently. Now on our prelims, the fight moved to our prelims. We now have the second fight is going to be Jack Della Medella versus Pete Rodriguez. And then Tony Gravely against Simon Oliveira, and Matt Frivola against Gerardo Valdez has been moved up to be prelim fights, with the two other fights canceled. So this would be this Tony Gravely fight and what would have been the second fight in the early prelims, this Matt Frivola, Gerardo Valdez. All right, so let's take a unpaid commercial break here real quick, and I'm going to plug who I hope we can eventually get to sponsor us. Now, FanDuels. Now, this is the reason I plug this one here is over the other sports book is, while of course they want you to bet a lot of money, they're okay with you betting as little as 10 cents. And if you download their app, you install their app, you don't put anything in your account, and you just have patience, eventually they're probably just going to give you $50 to bet with, like what they did with me. So I've been playing with house money now for a month, and I think I'm so far still even on my house money, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, you could sign up, you get $50 free to bet with if you're lucky. If not, people like me can send you a link where if you deposit $10, you'll then get $50 for free money. I recommend going the patience route, though, and holding out for as long as you can until they give you free money with no deposit. They probably don't like that as a, potential sponsor, but hey, that's what you get when you're the sports book and people are trying to get money from you. They call it betting, not winning. So hey, the odds are stacked in their favor no matter what. Get the house money whenever you can. Now, if we look at our early prelims here, we'll start there. I have added in the win-loss records, the last fight details, country, weight, and height for these. So let's start at this Kay Hansen against Yasmin Wasudavikas fight, which is now the lead fight on the, or it still is the lead fight on the early prelims. Now we have Jasmine, who is making her debut against Kay Hansen, who is coming off of a last fight, which is her loss. I believe she's something like 23, 24, 22, somewhere in there. So it's unreal that already at that age, she already has, what's that, 13 fights? I don't know, I can't see that far. 11 fights. Gosh, my eyesight's terrible, apparently. I think this fight is, like all these fights, it's going to be a great fight. I would say don't blink, but it could go anywhere. They both have wins standing up. They both have wins on the ground. I think this fight actually does not go the distance, but we'll see. I think it's a good one to lead it off, especially for a women's fight. Now, the other early prelim, and interestingly, if I was a matchmaker, decision maker there, I would not have made this decision. I would have moved up one of the women fights to the prelims instead of stacking them both on the early prelims. But they have left it so that Silvana Juarez versus Vanessa Demopoulos is the other fight on the early prelims in the women's strawweight division. Now, both these fighters are coming off losses, which should give them motivation to get a win and stay in the UFC, because the UFC, they aren't wanting to keep around people that don't win. As Dana said earlier, yesterday, they got 750 fighters on the active roster. Well, you don't keep 750 around if they ain't winning all the time. So this fight should also be, I'm going to say, a slugfest. Now, these women both have fights that they've won standing or, by KO or TKO, as well as submission. So this is another one that I don't think goes the distance, but we'll see. I mean, how can you go wrong with a nickname like Little Monster? There's like two Tasmanian devils in there. Now let's go on to our prelims. Again, my graphic is a little out of date. I didn't move I left the stats on here for the Morales versus Giles one, and two of our, we'll bounce around just to make sure that, On the prelims, starting the prelims now, we have the Matt Frivola versus Gerardo Valdez fight, which you can see on our early prelims graphic. The Steamroller versus Rayadito. Man, I'm terrible at nicknames. Bernardo is making his UFC debut while Matt Frevola, has a loss in his last fight. Now this one I expect to be potentially a ground fight that ends in submission, though as you can see by Bernardo's win ratio that he actually gets quite a few KOs and TKOs, which I guess is actually not made it on that graphic. He wins 70% of the time by KO or TKO, whereas Matt Frevola, he wins 38% of the time by a submission or 50% by a decision. So I think this fight, if it doesn't stay standing, if it goes to the ground, it favors Frevola. If it stays standing, it's going to favor Valdez. Again, should be a good fight. They both, we'll just put it that way. Classic grappler versus striker fight. Now the second fight on the prelims now is the Tony Gravely versus Simon. I think that's a Simon Oliveira. I hope I said his name right. Which is on... Where's that even on our graphics? There it is. They apparently switched them. Okay, there we go. Now again, here we have Gravely coming off a UFC loss, whereas Oliveira is making his UFC debut. This fight is another fight that, like all the fights on here, I expect to be a battle. Now, it could go stand-up, it could go submission. Both guys have wins both ways. I don't expect to go the distance. I really don't expect any of these fights tomorrow to go the distance. Right? If I was going to bet on them all and I had that option, I don't know, there probably is on FanDuel. We'll have to look tomorrow morning. All right, let's go to our next prelim fight. Jack Della Maddalena, man, I'm just going to call him Jack versus Pete Rodriguez, which is on our early prelims graphic. Our prelims graphic. Oh, excuse me. Here we go. Now, as you can see, both these guys have good records. They're both making their UFC debuts. Fairly evenly matched in the height, weight, stats. This fight, if you were going to bet on a fight to end in KO, this is one to do it. Pete Rodriguez, 100% KO, TKO stoppage rate in his wins. Jack has an 80% KO, TKO in his wins. None of their fights have gone the distance that they've won. This fight's not going the distance. I don't know, if you look tomorrow when the prop bets are probably all filled in, this fight probably has like a plus 1,000 for going the distance. I'm going to speculate. Fireworks. If you had an option where it's like bet fireworks, I'm going to bet fireworks on this fight. I think it's going to be fantastic. Okay, so headlining the prelims. Tony Baceros versus Victor Henry. This one, to me, is an unknown. They have Henry as a underdog. Barcelos is pretty favored on this fight. Now, both fighters have wins by KO as well as submission, though more than a third of their fights go to decision. You know, when you have 26 fights and 18 fights, that's a pretty fair number. So this fight really, it could go 30% either, 33% either way in my book. Decision, KO, submission. You know, one of the hard things about it, at least going by the UFC's graphics, is they don't have any striking statistics, any grappling statistics. They really have no statistics other than win-loss ratio for Victor Henry. So, I don't know, the diehard fans are probably yelling at the screen like, how do you not know who this guy is? He's a badass. There's a reason he is leading off the prelims, or headlining the prelims. So I'm looking forward to seeing this fight and seeing why the UFC put this guy where he is. So another fight that I expect to be very good. Okay, let's move on to our main card now. Now this is one, the original main card had a fight, Greg Hardy against Alexei Olenek. That fight got canceled. I think that might have been the third one on there, actually. This fight was from what I understand, the lead-in fight. It was now canceled today. So we got the stats on it. I put the thing over. We got a new graphic going for Michael Morales against Trevin Giles, which goes from being first fight in the prelims to now the first fight on the main card. Hopefully those guys got a nice pay bump for that. More than just, say, a Venom coupon, like Reddit likes to say they get. Now, Michael Morales, I think he's even fighting out of the red corner, which is the, favored corner, making his UFC debut against Trevin Giles coming off a UFC loss. Both these guys have very good KO, TKO at 75% and 43% ratio, though they do obviously have some submissions and decisions in their record. Now, their stats are pretty even, really, as far as their stand-up stats. You could say that Morales has an advantage on the ground. I don't expect this fight to go the distance. It's probably going to be a KO, TKO. If I was going to bet on it, that's probably how I would bet. Now, the second fight on the card, this one is one that I'm very much looking forward to. Cody Stamann against Said Nurmagomedov. I expect this one, as you can see by their records, Cody has coming off a loss, Said coming off a win. Said has a very good reach advantage, both in the arms and the legs. He's a little taller. Their wins, they have submissions, decisions, KOs in their record. You see the Nurmagomedov name, and a lot of people are going to instantly think Khabib Nurmagomedov. I have no idea if these guys are related, but if you watch the footage, he definitely has that bully, get you on the ground and pound, Dagestani style that area is known for, which is how I think this fight's actually going to end. I think it's going to go to the ground, and he's going to punish Stamann into a ground either submission or TKO victory. Though I do, expect it to be a very good fight. Now, the third fight on the card, this was originally the Alexei Olenek Greg Hardy fight that is now Michael Pereira Lima versus Andre Fialho. This fight was moved from the prelims up to this main card, I want to say 2 weeks ago when that other fight was canceled. I think it's still a very good fight, very worthy of being on the main card. Be fireworks, even though they don't have any stats filling in for this Fialho. I think that's because he's from the PFL, and maybe there's some UFC beef or something like that. But from what I understand, he could be a killer in the stand-up too. So he ain't no slouch. He's in there for a reason. This is another one where if you could bet on fireworks, I'd be betting on fireworks on this fight. Alright, so as I said, we're trying to get a little FanDuel action here. So I did place, using some bonus money, that $50 bonus money they gave, 3 bets. And as you can see, my first one, which is now voided out, so I got my $1 back on that, as I bet Vieira to win via submission. Now the Said Nurmagomedov versus Cody Stamann fight, I bet $1 for Nurmagomedov to win either by KO, TKO, or submission. Now, he doesn't have a very high submission win rate, but the reason that I went with this double chance is, even though I think it's more likely to go TKO or KO, with that ground and pound style that he has, and a lot of these guys have, it's not uncommon to see a fighter or a fight where they're getting punished on the ground and they give up their back trying to avoid damage at a certain point, and then at that point you get rear naked choke, submission out, boom. That's all of a sudden what was a knockout or TKO becomes a submission victory, which is why I bet that way. And similarly, that is why I bet the other Michael Pereira versus Fialho fight to also win by either submission or TKO for similar reasons. I think that's one where there could be a big punch landed standing up, goes to the ground, boom, submission gets locked in, and the chaos on the ground, fight over. That's my thinking on there. Now, if you're out looking and you go to, say, the FanDuel site, you'll notice, see, there's my $50 free credit up there in the corner. They make it very easy to play. The website and the app's very easy to use. They have a ton of promos. They're always doing risk-free bets, insurance bets, bet so much, and if there's so many threes scored in a game, you get so much in bonus. And they're always trying to get you to bet and hook you up. Definitely avoid temptation. You know, bet only what you can afford. And I always try to only bet the house money. You know, don't put any money in if you can get away with it. Now you can see here, here's a great example of one from earlier in the week where I bet 50 cents randomly that Jimmy Buckets and Devin Booker would score first baskets in their games. And that 50 cents became a $21 win for me, which is awesome. You know, that happens, you're like, damn, that's, and, you know, don't fall into all like, I got to turn that into a $50 bet. No, for me, I'm going to keep doing the 25 cent, 50 cent, maybe $1 or two, you know, whatever. I'm in it for fun, not to break the bank. You know, we say we're trying to take millions and millions from FanDuel, but really it's more about making bad games entertaining. And so that's, you know, for me, that's what the betting's all about. Let's go to our co-main event here. And this is going to be a fantastic fight. Brandon Moreno. They used to call him the Assassin Baby. Now I think they might call him the Heart of Mexico. I was watching the live weigh-ins today, and they were calling him that. Great fighter, has a fantastic story. How could you not like it? And then his opponent, the God of War, Davidson Figueiredo, another guy that has a fantastic story. How could you not like it? They're going into their trilogy, and it feels a lot like a Frankie Edgar, Gray Maynard-esque trilogy where two guys, I wouldn't say they hate each other, but they love to fight, and they're going to bring the fight, and it's going to be a great fight. They could fight 10 times, and it's going to be entertaining and headline-worthy all 10 times. Now, looking at their stats, you know, they're fairly evenly matched in both areas. Obviously, Moreno has that big submission win in their last fight. Though you could say Davidson Figueiredo, you know, he's no slouch either. He obviously has some dominant wins over guys like Joseph Benavidez, where he, you know, not only bullied him stand up brutally, but then had that brutal choke out on him. And against Moreno, he even had his own moments. He landed a lot of big shots against him. Moreno has some beard on him for a guy that is the Assassin Baby. I mean, that guy, he can take a punch. Though the question is, can he take the next punch from Figueiredo, who is a killer with the fist? Now, of course, Moreno has that big submission victory over Figueiredo that we've mentioned a couple times. Huge rear naked choke. And even when he didn't have that submission locked in, he was handily beating him, even in the stand-up, most would say, other than the few big shots he ate. Now, he's also demolished quite a few people, even like, say, guys like Brandon Royval, where he threw him down and demolished his shoulder, basically tore his shoulder off, basically. I mean, this guy, he is a dominator, Moreno. Hard one to bet against. However, I did bet against him. I think Figueiredo wins by KO or TKO. I just like Figueiredo. I like his personality. I like the way that he carries himself. He's just a fun guy to watch, really. And here you can see, so I bet him to win by KO, TKO. I think the fight's going to end in round 2 or round 3. And then I had placed this 3-leg parlay over a month ago. And as you can see, it got voided out when Olenek first pulled out, and then Greg Hardy. I don't know if this one is actually still plus 35.01. I don't think it actually still is, but who knows? Maybe it still is. If I win... If this fights go out that way and I do win 36.90, I definitely would not complain about it. That would be a great win for me. Now, the reason I bet that way is, I mean, look at this. A guy that has a pet water buffalo named Ferdinand, who has, I think he owns a salon where he even still works as a hairdresser. He's been a sushi chef, a taxi driver, bricklayer, former world champion, and you have a nickname like the God of War. It's hard not to like and root for Davidson Figueiredo. I mean, this guy, he's just entertaining to the max. I can't wait for this fight to happen. Now, going back to trying to get our sponsorship here, FanDuel, like I said, they run promos all the time, constant promos. They make it very easy to get bonus money if you can find some smart bets to bet. Now, I'll warn you, you want to read the fine print because there's often limitations or rules. Sometimes it'll be things like here in this example where you need to bet $10 and you need to have a 3-leg parlay with a greater than 400 odds to get $10 in bonus credit. Now, there are times where I've seen you need to bet something like $25, but unlike many of the other sports books where most of their promos are minimum $50 bets, FanDuel on a lot of them, they don't really care. Sometimes they do, other times it's things like you need to have so much odds and maybe 4 legs in your parlay. There's a lot of different ways to get bonuses, and it's not always just betting a ton of money. Now, when you do bet, you see, as you can see here, I bet $1 on a 6-leg parlay. I bet 50 cents on that 2-leg parlay. That dollar turned into $14.31 in winning. That 50 cents, $21. Sometimes you do get lucky and win. You won't win them all, obviously. This is actually the only same game parlay I've ever hit. Though I have hit actually quite a few of these first basket ones, which is surprising because the odds on them are never in your favor, obviously. So don't be like me on those. Or if you are like me, win like me. Let's go to our main event here. Francis the Predator Ngannou against Cyril Gane Bongaman. And I hope I said his nickname right. This fight, I don't think it goes the distance either. I think it actually it's going to be a TKO or a KO in my book. We'll come back to who I think wins it here in a couple minutes. As you can see, Francis Ngannou, he has 100%. His wins do not go the distance. He either wins by submission or knockout, TKO. Now, Gane does have some wins via decision, though he's also very proficient both in submissions and in the stand-up game. Now, I think Francis weighed in, I want to say 10 pounds heavier today, so he will have the size weight advantage in that regard, and of course he just looks like the bigger individual in terms of their mass, though both these individuals are huge. Gane is, I think, 6'4", a massive individual. Of course, Ngannou, they list him also at 6'4". He looks to me about an inch taller, but that just could be the buzz cut. They list him at 245, 250. I think Gane weighed in at 243, maybe Francis at 253, something like that. I could be off on that, don't quote me on it. Francis has the slight reach advantage in both the leg and the arm. Though when they fight, you would actually think that Gane has the reach advantage from watching the film, not the YouTube social media stuff. In my opinion, watching their fights, not against each other, but against opponents, Gane looks like he's a lengthier fighter. And some of that is he has more of a stick and move in and out style versus Ngannou. Though Ngannou has been definitely evolving, and as we saw against Stipe, he's not just a throw and pray. He definitely has some tactician skill. You know, he ain't no slouch. Now, of course, he's known for that uppercut from hell. It's amazing that he did not decapitate his opponent in this fight. Overeem, you know, he did come back and have some victories after this. And whoever his plastic surgeon was, credit to that guy, because his lip was demolished after this punch. And of course, Ngannou, he won the title with this convincing victory over Stipe, who previously had bested him in a decision. In their first fight, Stipe was able to absorb Ngannou's power. I don't want to say shrug it off, but he was able to take the power and then grind out a victory. Whereas in the rematch, Francis caught him clean and put him out cold, and it was a brutal knockout. Now on the flip side, Gane, this guy is a stand-up wizard, and he has a true 8 tools in his toolbox. If he could legally get away with doing headbutts, he would have 9. He's going to throw knees, elbows, punches, kicks, both hands, both legs. He's going to be fighting on the inside, fighting on the outside, can fight in the clinch, can go to the ground. He's definitely a very good fighter, a very accurate striker. He can split your guard with punches. He can hit you everywhere with kicks. You know, as I said, gets you with both sides. A very strong kickboxing background to his fighting style. Now, the way I predict this fight to go is I think it's actually going to be a Gain TKO or KO. I think it's going to be either in round 2 or round 3. There wasn't a double on that, so I had to bet those separately. I would have preferred to get like a 2 or 3 option on there, but it is what it is, as they say. So as you can see, I bet Gain to win by TKO or KO. If I hit that, that'll be $9. If he wins in the second round, I'll win another $5.30. If it's in the third round, that'll be another $9. You could subtract $1 on those for the other bets. And if again my parlay hits, that'll be another $36.70 on what would be a total of $5, $6, $7 on those bets. And one thing that I do wish was different is like this parlay they voided on me. I wish I would have like some other sites let you edit a bet. So I would have replaced that with say Said Nurmagomedov to win via in that fight instead of this Olenek one. Which I don't know what that would have done to the odds. If it would have even dropped him, I would have been okay with that. Just slightly to have that in there. So anyway, that is my where my dollar's on. Post in the comments. I'll be curious to hear how you bet your dollars and why. It's always good to hear, you know, how people think these fights are going to go. And, you know, unlike some pay-per-views, in this one, there is one of these on the line. And not only is there one of these on the line, but there's 2 of these on the line. And you might be saying, well, what is that? That looks like a baby belt. No, a belt is what holds your pants up. This is a world title. Only one of these in each division. And we're lucky that tomorrow 2 of these are on the line. And even though ESPN Plus has raised the prices on us yet again, I still think this one is going to be worth the investment in that for your entertainment dollar. So I hope you'll tune in just like me. Unfortunately, if you do tune in as a result of my stream, I don't get any promotional credit or anything for that. But we'll at least both feel good that you watch the fights. So watch them, enjoy. I hope you found this stream useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good day.